Hi, this is the first of our recordings of local councillors, and I'm very pleased to say that the first councillor we've got is Sue Wallsgrove, who is on the Arun Council. Sue, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do on the council?
My name's Sue Wallsgrove. I've lived in the area my whole life. I've got children that are local, husband, dogs, care passionately about where I live and Arun. I'm Vice Chair of Planning for my sins on Arun and also Vice Chair of Environment. I also sit on Audit and Governance. I sit on the Portsmouth Water Scrutiny Committee. I also sit on Southern Water Scrutiny Committee. So a lot going on.
So what made you want to do it in the first place?
Because I care about the state of our environment, the building, the wrecking of the countryside, the sea, all the rife systems around here, sewage, pollution, and just to help our local residents. And because I am local, obviously I know a lot of people here and they were crying out for someone to be their voice. So that's why I chose to do it.
I can remember, I assume it was just over a year ago, there was huge problems in Barnham with sewage. Can you tell us a bit about the history and where you've got to now?
Right, okay, so Barnham for the last 40 years has been inundated with sewage problems. It's all to do with the geology of the area. So where I live in Fontwell, we're on top of the Aldingbourne Raised Beach. Down in Barnham and Eastergate, they're actually at the bottom of the Aldingbourne Raised Beach. So you get shifting sands and the water table is very high. So water runs down through the aquifers, which the Aldingbourne Beach is one of them. And obviously that's our potable water, which is really good. That's why we have the most cheapest bills, Portsmouth water, because it is all natural. But obviously at Barnham, because they are on shifting sands or green sands, as they call it, all the water pipes tend to split apart because they're moving all the time because of the sand. So then you get obviously the sewage coming out, mixing with the high water table, which then pours out into the roads. And for 9 months, we had tankers at 23, 24. It came up in people's houses. It's obviously not pleasant. The whole of Barnham smelt like a sewage farm for months on end. Pipes split in the Barnham Road, which then washed away Southern Water's pipes. So the road collapsed because obviously of the green sand, shifting sand. And that was shut for 6 weeks. So the businesses suffered terribly. We managed to get a new main in Elm Grove because they had sewage coming up in their gardens and in their loos. They couldn't use their downstairs loos. So that was obviously Southern Water did that, which is great. And they have promised they are going to line my sewers in Barnham. But
so you've taken responsibility for the sewers.
I have. I want to call the tankers Sue's tankers, actually, because at the time they were filling a tanker up in 7 minutes at £1,000 a day per tanker.
And still people weren't happy because of what was happening. Yes.
Yeah. And of course, then we've got the chalk streams that feed into the rife system in Barnham. So we had brown trouts dead, washing up at the bottom of people's gardens. Obviously, there's water voles. So there's an awful lot of impact on that system. Then they have what they call a CSO chamber in Marshall Close. And that CSO chamber has a screen in it which collects all the rag, so loo roll, sanitary products, because people still have to flush these things down the loo. And because of the weather we had, it had a hole in the screen, so they were flushing sanitary ware, etc., straight into the rife system.
God.
So they managed to have a new screen built and put that in situ, and they also put another pumping station in at Marshall Close, so they now have 2. And they've also put non-return valves on people's loos in Marshall Close, because Marshall Close is the lowest point in Barnham, so of course all the sewage goes down that way. I've also just joined up with, and I'll tell you, for Western Rivers Trust as a guardian to test water quality in the Rife system around Barnham. So I went on that, obviously, it's shocking. The Rife, especially at Bursted Brooks, or just back a bit to the Tangmere wastewater treatment, the iron dosing system is not working. So the levels, it's cobalt blue, these tests, and it's not meant to be. So that shows you how much rubbish is actually going into that Rife system. And yes, it's pretty disgusting, really.
So you've obviously become a bit of a hydrologist over the years, an expert.
And a geologist.
Yeah. So how much work has it involved for you?
How much work? What do you want? Hours, or writing to CEOs of Southern Water, who actually does reply to me. He doesn't to a lot of people, and I have direct dial numbers to the director of wastewater treatment at Ford, and also another director, John Pennycard, who deals with all of this around here as far as Kent. So, and obviously the stakeholders for Southern Water, I mean, that runs from Eastbourne right the way to the New Forest.
And an awful lot that you've sort of had to get to grips with and understand.
Yes, it was a bit of a baptism of fire, really, because obviously I won the by-election against the Conservatives, and then so I obviously had 6 months with 6 months with Isabel, which was great. I mean, I miss her terribly, and she was going to stand for West Sussex, but of course then we went into the full election, and we got 6 of us.
I know.
That were elected. Unfortunately, Steve McAuliffe is now an independent. Yes. But there's still 5 of us. We've managed to get Paul Ayling has just put a motion through for when Southern Water's going to stop dumping sewage into our rivers and seas. So we're working on that. We've also, another thing we got rid of, I sit on audit and governance, and they were investing in Qatar, with all these things they were investing in. Human rights went out of the window. What were we doing investing in these countries that are supplying arms, and why were we doing that? So lo and behold, they've removed every single one of them.
Wow. That's what we've just been trying to get done in Chichester and been told it's impossible.
Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. We've got rid of, what were we doing? Investing in these countries. Women's rights, trans rights, gay rights, all of it. Why were we putting our money into these countries? Because you got a big return. Well, yes. That's not how it should work. People in poverty, there are a lot of people in water poverty that cannot afford, these huge hikes in the bills. So we've actually worked with Portsmouth Water to actually do reduced amount that people pay, and that's going through at the moment. They will be put on the lowest amount that they could pay, which is great. And there is financial help, and Portsmouth Water are very good in helping people.
My other question was going to be, what are the current issues in the council? Well, you've obviously already covered a few of them, haven't you?
Well, obviously devolution. I mean, what an undemocratic process. you know, we're going to do this, and actually locals are not going to have a voice. You know, you can fill in the online form, which doesn't really do an awful lot. You know, and then we'll talk about having 2 unitary authorities, and God forbid if we have a Conservative mayor. I mean, it doesn't worth thinking about the horrors of it all, and it is horrors.
So what is about the
mayoral elections are next year, so that will come first, and then obviously unitary authorities. So you've got Chichester talking with Arun and Ada and Worthing and Crawley and Horsham to have this superpower, if you like. Paul Marshall, who's the Conservative leader at West Sussex County Council, wants 1. That won't work, because obviously Ada, Worthing, Arun, Bognor have some quite pockets of poverty, and they do. So obviously it's all to do with the tax base and how much council tax people pay. So if we just had a authority that just covered Bognor, Arun, Worthing, Ada, Brighton will obviously be on their own anyway. We will have one of the poorest areas in the whole of the country. So they were talking about, there were 8 scenarios put through. A lot of them have been discounted. Paul Marshall wanted 1. I think there's going to be 2 unitary authorities. So it will probably look like Bognor, obviously is under Arun anyway. So Arun, Ada, Worthing and Chichester, which in 1972, we used to come under Chichester in Falkwell. And then obviously Arun was then formed. So, but it, you know, they're still talking, it's still going on. You know, you have meetings and you don't really get an awful lot of what's going on anyway. So it's watch this space.
But there are 2 things that strike me there. One is that these big authorities, there's going to be less local representation.
Yep.
And
exactly.
The other thing is, who's paying for all this?
Sorry, Anne?
Who's paying for all this?
Yeah, well, apparently it's going to save money. Rubbish. Absolute claptrap. It will not save money. You know, might do in the long term, but not in the short term. It's costing, you know, the documents they're producing and all the, obviously going out to members of the public, but it doesn't matter what you say, they're still going to drive on with it. So it's not good. Not a good scenario. And of course, people won't have our voices.
No, exactly.
Here. You know, and we're, you know, all of us are on the ground. I mean, everybody's got our phone numbers and, you know, and we're all busy. You know, but it is a shocking state of affairs, I'm afraid. Not impressed.
We've been chatting now for just over a quarter of an hour, Sue, and it has been great, and it's been really good hearing about the good things that are going on in Arun. I'm guessing it helps the fact that you have got 6 Green Councillors there, although one's independent now.
Yes. I mean, obviously Carol's brilliant at housing and well-being. Obviously Paul works full-time, Anita works full-time, but you know, we all put our heads together. We have a monthly meeting, you know, so we can put the ideas and suggestions forward. So which is great. I was on a planning committee meeting on Monday for 4,500 homes at Barnham, Eastergate, Westergate, which was put in the local plan by the Conservatives. It's on grade 1 farmland. It's right by the Rife system. They want to build a road which will link up Barnham Road with Lidsey Bends, and they want to do a northern arc which comes off of Barnham Road, huge great roundabout coming up to Falkland Avenue. So the planning went in but we've managed to get some really good conditions, so gramping conditions. So they've got to upgrade the wastewater treatment and pipes before anybody can occupy any of these houses, which is great because we should be working to gramping conditions all the time.
Wait, what are gramping conditions?
Yeah. Also, obviously,
What
they go right. So they have to. So when you've got a gramping condition, they build the houses. No one can move into them or create sewage until they upgrade the pipes, upgrade the wastewater treatment places, and that will take at least 24 months. So we need to be applying all these gramping conditions onto these big sites that are being used, because it is very, very important. However, there is another caveat in that if they don't deliver the road and the bridge over the railway line, they will not be able to build the 4,500 houses, which is really good. Also, because of the importance of the Rife system at Aldingbourne, because it's Barnham, Eastergate, Westergate, they have created a habitat of over 40 hectares for cycling, walking, and and recreation. And obviously that's very important down that Rife system, because we've got a colony of barbastelle bats, which is a maternity roost in Slindon Woods, which actually use the Rife systems to feed off of. And they're an IUCN Red List species.
Yes. When I campaigned locally in this area, the issue of bats became very, very important. But
it is.
They're very sensitive animals. It doesn't take much to disrupt their lifestyle completely.
No, it doesn't. And of course, they fly out over to the sea anyway to feed and then fly back. So obviously for the maternity roost. Also, there's another planning application coming in for 551 homes on the Barnham Road. However, there's more environment constraints, because actually I told them there were dormice out there and badgers and foxes, and no, there's nothing there. It's a bit like the Dandara site behind me. I've got 5 dormice nests behind me. So now they've got some constraints because of the wildlife, so they've got to rethink the whole development again. Plus also it's on a minor aquifer, which obviously water still comes down, it's still potable water, so the whole thing's got to be looked at again,
which is a real problem we have in this area, isn't it? There
is yes,
so few suitable places for housing, and yet when they have them, they build these little boxes beside each other.
They're horrible.
But also they just have such a big footprint. And I mean, I've just seen
I mean, I'm trying to get something through actually at planning, or it's going through at planning policy, that every house will have to have 2 water butts, one front, one back. And why are we not doing grey water harvesting? Easy enough to do, and reed beds. So
I mean, in Belgium, it's the law. All new houses have to have water harvesting.
I mean, I've got 5 water butts here. Mine hasn't run out, so I'm watering my garden. Yeah.
Well, that all sounds brilliant, but hard work. And it just goes to show the value of having green voices in the council. It obviously makes such a difference. It really does.